Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how much more performance you have by having a fairly high-end CPU in Blender when it comes to rendering with the GPU. Now, I have this scene, it's not quite finished baking yet. It's up to frame 3426 and I'm simulating 5000 frames. So I'm not going to show you the entire animation, but this is the basic scene. It's a flip fluid scene. I have it in low quality preview mode, that way I can actually scrub through the timeline. Alright, now if I was to put this in high quality with the white water added to it, this is how much longer it takes to change to another frame. I clicked and there you go. It takes that long. Alright, now here's what I want to show you. Let me go ahead and close this. I'm using the command line to bake it up here, and I'm using the command line down here to render it. Now you do have an option in Flip Fluids where you can bake and render at the same time in the same command line, but it actually works better opening up two different command lines, having one dedicated to baking and one dedicated to rendering. The only problem is if the render ever catches up and passes up the baking, then it's going to render empty frames without the simulation in it. But I don't have that issue here because this is currently baking like 3400th frames around there, and I'm only rendering like 1600 and something. Alright, now here's what I want to show you. This computer right here has the Ryzen 9 9950X, and it is baking up here and it's rendering down here. And the rendering process, it's about ready to, it's actually rendering a frame now, and I'll show you what the time is whenever it gets done. Here's the time right down here. So basically 44 seconds is what it took. Now let me switch over to my old machine right here, and this right here is only rendering, and see, it's taking 1 minute and 5 seconds just to render. Now keep in mind, this is the kicker. This machine is using a 3080 Ti, and this machine is using a 3070. 3070 is quite a bit weaker than the 3080 Ti, but because the CPU can process the scene and get the data prepared and sent to the GPU much faster than like the 3900X, and the 3900X is a good CPU. But because it is so much faster, the CPU, the rendering time is significantly quicker, simply because it prepares the frames quicker to be rendered. I even have this desktop right here, which has a Ryzen 5 1600X, which is just kind of a meh CPU nowadays. Back, 8 years ago, it was a decent CPU, and it's using a RTX 2060 Super. And as you can see here, it took 1 minute and 9 seconds just to start rendering, because the 1600X is a fairly slow CPU. But the 2060 Super is still doing pretty good. Let's see, it's 176, 192 of 192 samples. It took basically 1 minute 32 seconds, of which a minute and 9 seconds was just preparing the scene. So the 2060 Super rendered the flip fluid scene with millions of particles in roughly, let's see, that would be 23 seconds. So yeah, it's not bad, but having a high-end GPU makes less of a difference when it comes to millions and millions of fluid particles than it does with having a faster CPU. But I just thought that was interesting. Later, people.